Welcome back to the Tokyo Living Podcast, where today we are celebrating our 50th episode. When I started, I didn't think that we'd ever get this far, and just started off as a little fun thing to do. But it's sort of developed into a bit of a passion project, and I've had a fantastic time speaking to some really interesting guests over the last year. And it's been something that I've really enjoyed doing. I'd like to thank all the guests that have come on and shared their experiences and their knowledge. And even more so, I'd like to thank the listeners and the viewers that have sort of tuned into this every week. So for our 50th episode, I've got two very special guests, two of my very favorite people in Tokyo, 37 Frames, Dee Green and Tracey Tailor. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Yay! Happy 50th!
Thank you. Now, I usually start by getting the guests to introduce themselves to listeners that might not be familiar with them. If there are listeners out there that aren't familiar with you, then I'd probably, first of all, recommend that they see their doctor to get checked for vitamin D deficiency and possible malnutrition for being stuck under the rock that they've obviously been in for the last 10 years. But there may be some of those out there. So, ladies, tell us all, how did this sort of whole story start for you guys?
I don't even know where to start, and I'm just wondering if it's too early for cocktails, but probably not, because that always tends to help. Once upon a time, we came to Japan, long, long, long ago. So Dee, Tracey, 37 Frames, and okay, for anyone that doesn't know, we're in the world of weddings. So just before, the world of celebrations, high stress events, love, yep. But yes, we've been hitched 20 something years now, and it didn't start completely in weddings, but we started with a photography company, and we were just doing some family photos, and that grew into worldwide events. And here we are. We've been here the whole time ever since. It was originally from Australia. I think, like many people's stories, it was meant to be 1 year, and now it's been 20 something years. And Japan was always just such a great base for us. Sort of once we moved into photography and into destination weddings, especially, Japan was a good base because we were traveling so much of the year. So I think we're out of practice with my
Yeah, the time, it's like I get patients that come in and it's like, oh yeah, my knee's hurting. 3 years ago I fell over, and then yesterday just going back to the further start. So how did you guys meet? Were you both in photography when you met, and what were you doing in Australia prior to coming out here?
Okay. So we actually met at uni, of all things, theatre, production, all of those things. My background originally was in journalism. Trace was always kind of been fine art, film photography. She's a landscape photographer. So did a few other little things up to uni, thought come to Japan, do all that kind of stuff. It was only going to be...
Well,
I think the reason that we came to Japan, though, back in the late 90s, I think was, Japan was at the end of its bubble. We, like Dee said, we were doing journalism and landscape. There was no digital cameras at this time. And we were doing a lot of work for magazines where Dee was writing stories for airline magazines, and I was doing the photography, and basing ourselves in Asia. We were getting work practically all over the world, because Australia was just that one step further for people to hire us and extra plane tickets. But being based here, we were getting a lot of work. So of course, that's why we came to Japan. We based ourselves here. It was great. How it all developed, though, was the world went digital.
Yeah.
And that changed us enormously. It kind of broke me a little bit, because suddenly I didn't have a role or a job or anything. And did you want to say something? You ready to jump in? And so once everything went digital, the world changed. People didn't need photographers. They were giving cameras to the journalists. You go and with your little digital camera, you go and do what you need to do. newspapers were cutting out all over the world. They were cutting out photographers left and right. People were losing their jobs. I was getting really, really sad that I had studied fine art and, what was I going to do? I thought I'd found my way in the world. And I kept saying digital photography was going to be a fad. I was certain of it. Little known fact, we actually bought our first digital camera here in Japan, and it was one of those big, I think it was an adult, like an adult rig. And we were so excited, because we saw someone with this camera and like you could take a photo and then turn the camera over and see the photo on the back. And you could do that 8 times. So we ran out the very next day. We bought one of those, and we also bought 24. We didn't even have a laptop. Now, computer, we didn't know how we were going to get off. We've still got it. I think it would be such a treasure. So that's how things started. But then we probably moved into the weddings. Oh, go ahead, Seth.
Well, yeah. When do you think that all occurred? I mean, obviously it didn't happen on one specific day, but in what area are you talking about when, I guess, print media started to move out of fashion? And then when you say, I found it really interesting, Trace, that you said photographers weren't being required to the same degree and they were giving cameras to journalists. Is that because with digital media, like the actual quality of photography wasn't seen as being as important, or how did that whole sort of evolution happen?
Yes, I think it's actually a really detailed situation that happened. But it was around the year 2000 that digital all started happening. By the year 2003, most magazines and newspapers and everything had then gone to completely digital. When it first started, magazine covers still needed film. They weren't digital wasn't the quality for a magazine cover, but it didn't take very long. I mean, every new camera that came out was better, more pixels, better quality. So did you want to say something? No, I agree. Yeah. So yeah. Sorry, I was getting bothered. So by the year so it was 2000 to 2003 that, by 2003, it was completely and utterly digital. What was the second part of your question to that, Sam? Sorry.
Gosh, you're testing me now. It was, I can't remember.
The newspapers, the magazines. Yeah, they started to streamline and downsize because they realized that they could cut costs. And it wasn't that, I think that I don't think it was as much as they didn't see it as an art form or anything like that. I think it was just a cost cutting exercise. And in some way, there was a misconception that digital was easier than film. And it was to a certain extent. You took the photo, you uploaded it. There was no, intermediary of labs and all of that. But on the other hand, as we've found out since, it's taken a while to evolve.
Yeah.
There is still a skill involved. But we've seen the way photography has from digital. The whole world now loves it. We've got our Instagram, our filters. Everybody carries a camera in their pocket on their phones. Like, it's just evolved into something that we could never have imagined. And it's wonderful for us because people love sharing their stories. And that's, I think that looking over the last 20 years at what's happened, our industry has, we could go on for hours and hours and hours.
But I mean, even like compared to 2 or 3 years ago, I can imagine that the way that the digital world is influencing what you guys do is happening so much quicker than in, I guess, most industries. How do you keep up, and how do you keep sort of leveraging your amazing skills to stay ahead of the pack?
That's a good question. It really is about evolving and moving forward and keeping up on it. Trace does that a little bit more than me when it sort of comes to the way we've broken down the business. But absolutely, I mean, even now in terms of production and editing, like there's AI, there's all sorts of come in and sort of take that off our plate as well. It's still not as personal as if you do it yourself. Being in the lab and all of those things is so wonderful, but it is an evolution. And if you don't embrace that, you may get left behind, or you might find a niche for yourself. So it really is about evolving. And I think that's kind of been part of our Japan story, maybe a part of many people who find themselves in Japan extended time. You do have to evolve. And Japan is so interesting because it's a country that does move so fast, but then I'm also dealing with people that I need to fax.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It's really that dichotomy. Japan was like one of the first countries that had the borders everything digital. So it was kind of an exciting time to be here. Confusing, exciting. We did see, I think a lot of our colleagues maybe a little bit left behind because some were able to keep up. Other people have adapted, especially in weddings now. There's a real kind of niche towards hybrid. Some artists actually still use film on the day. A lot of people obviously use digital, some use both. So it's kind of really interesting to see how people have run with that. But certainly like the major shift that we've seen in our lives in 20 years here in Japan, just in our little world, has been fascinating. And we always talk like where we'll be in 5 years, 10 years. I think it was I'm not quite sure of the year, but in 1 year the world took more photos in that 1 year than the entire history, the previous history.
Oh, really? Oh, no.
Yeah. Oh, it's just absolutely fascinating when you sort of get into the history of photography and where we've come from and evolved. So, yeah, it's an amazing journey in many aspects, but I think Trace sort of hit the nail on the head. Like as soon as we hit Japan, everything went digital, Yeah.
And so then at that point, you were sort of working as contractors for, like you said, airlines and magazines and things like that. And then did you just sort of gradually start to do more of your own stuff and then build the business from there? Or
Trace was, before we sort of did to the weddings, Trace was very hesitant. And I suppose with the people who know us realize Dee's such a lovely people person. I come across perhaps not as personable. I feel very warm and fuzzy on the inside, but it doesn't always translate. But yeah, I was always very happy behind the camera, and being Dee's journalism background meant that she was a people person. She always wanted to be out there and finding what made people tick and getting, extracting information. She just enjoyed, telling people stories. So we never had naturally gravitated towards weddings actually, but it was 2008, one of the big worldwide organizations, WPPI, which is Wedding and Portrait Photographers International, actually came to Japan for a conference. It was the first time they'd been here. And I thought, maybe let's go. And this is not my finest moment. I had a meltdown. Never going anywhere. Like, her whole idea was, 1970s soft focus, snapshots. It just wasn't. I just had a very stereotypical vision of a 1980s, photographer just snapping things. I didn't have a point of reference, coming from what I wanted, what we had been doing to the idea of doing weddings just wasn't anything that I thought I wanted to do. But Dee's right. She dragged me along to the conference, and it was actually amazing, like to actually meet here in Tokyo some of the world's top wedding photographers and to see what they do. It was all so story driven. It was everything Trace loved, like light, moment, landscape as well, but it's photojournalism, love, commercial work, fashion. It was all of those things in a wedding day. Yeah, it certainly was not snap. So you can't mess up. It's one moment, one time in life where all your people together, that time to record history. So for me, it really resonated. It took her a little while to come around to it. And then once we sort of felt that maybe something we could move into, and certainly there was no one like us doing that here, that's when we realized the entire wedding industry in Japan is Japan Inc. Like it's cool. So it's locked down so tight. So two big blonde women with cameras from Australia, it was going to be a hard sell to move into that. So you do what anyone does if they're going to stay in Japan. The one thing I love about here is everything can be done, but if you just never give up, there's always a way, and you can your own way. And so like for us, that's just been the biggest joy. It's not been easy. Everyone's got a camera, everyone's a photographer. We kind of moved into an industry where actually photography was quite devalued. Well, I think in terms of the corporate model, in terms, but we try and liken it to, everyone can cook, but not everyone's a chef.
Right.
And a pair of scissors that doesn't make me a hairdresser. So, and there are different levels of quality and service. You've got your Appa hotels, and you've got your Ritz-Carlton hotels. There's not just one model and one price point. Every single industry has, different genres, different styles, different price points, different quality. And that's the same. And what we were running into, I think, was that everyone just wanted a photographer. And they were just like, well, I really want this style and this stuff, but gee, I can get a package deal down over here in Japan and it costs me, 3 times less. Japan was running the package model. And so we were bringing a more boutique service, we moved into it. Once we moved into it, and it had not been done here previously. No, certainly very corporate, part of the package deal. Nothing sort of more important than each other, and then we were coming from sort of a bit more of a world perspective. Once we moved into weddings, and then we realized there were destination weddings where people would go off and get married somewhere and create this team for them, a planner from one country, hair and makeup, videographer, bringing the whole team. That was so exciting for us, which wasn't really done here. But like I said, there's always a way. I find in Japan, you just need that one person to trust you. And then once they trust you, you have them for life. And so we worked really hard at making this connection.
Yeah.
It found a place for us. Then we really realized it was kind of still quite the Wild West out there, and to be relevant and forward, we really wanted at least prove to ourselves that we could keep moving forward and learning. So we did get very WPPI on a world scale. Trace, now she'll never say it, but she's one of she's part out. But I'm like, she's a triple master photographer. That's amazing. That doesn't happen overnight. That's study and I'm working with real clients on the day. Dee's a double master, and this is I think that comes from experience too.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, Dee was been talking about evolving stuff. Things evolved for us too as we started to notice what we were noticing in. Dee's kind of put about Japan being Japan-y and how hard it was to break down doors, here in Japan and move into those sort of corporate side of weddings. But it was 10, 12, 15 years of really, really, really hard work moving in and refining our skills. Like if we went into one of these big hotels, we had to be better than the Japanese team, and we couldn't break the rules, and we couldn't do all eyes on the foreigners. Are they going to make one step? But, that would be the excuse to move on. So it had to be better, faster, more on time. We had to finish 5 minutes before everybody else, but all those little things to create that trust to be able to come back. So that was really interesting. We did move into the corporate side, and we do have a couple of contracts for like the VIP luxury high-end, which was really interesting. And then, of course, most of our work now just comes through referrals and clients finding us, right? But I think what we moved then, we found that so many couples. Okay, so let me just start by saying there was a destination wedding boom over the last 10 or 15 years. There's always been people that want to get married in a destination event, whether it be Hawaii or, the Australians might go to Bali or, the US has Mexico. We fly. We've always wanted those destination events, all the families together. It's a bigger celebration or a more intense celebration, over a longer time. But we started noticing some of the millennials. What let me say, as we get older, our clients are all the same age, so we have to keep up with the trend, or you have to put on a young team. So the pandemic has not been good. But we noticed that the more millennial trend was happening to having destination wedding events in more exotic areas. Iceland became popular. Iceland, 1 year we're in Iceland 3 times, 4 times.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, which was amazing. It's such a soul place. And then more and more people were looking at Japan, but they found that there was absolutely no information at all on how to have a wedding, like in English here in Japan. There was no accessibility whatsoever. And if they were, it would be the hotels. You know, I think most of destination weddings or our people love to sort of put things together, research, find the location, dream location, find all the things that make it special for them. But that doesn't happen in Japan. It's very hotel based. They get a set plan. We noticed that happening more and more, and they would end up going with a hotel and maybe then find us after the might come in on the photography side if we were allowed in the hotel, because often here in Japan, especially for where the way they lock it down, a million brilliant fees. The commission here that any in-house spenders have to pay to the hotels is absolutely outrageous. But if you live and work here, that's harder. And we don't work like that. So we've just come in and they're like, we want 50%. And I'm like, yeah, that's never going to happen. So that's been interesting. But getting back to our couples, they would sort of come in, get locked into these hotel plans, maybe find us on the photography side. We'd come in and document their day. But behind the lens, we were then noticing lost in translation moments. You know, the venue be wanting to do this for the couple, and the couple, like, they don't want goal, the couple would want to be doing this, and that doesn't happen in Japan. So we really realised there was such a little market here that we could thrive in. So 7 years ago, I still photographs, but I moved out to Canada, so I now handle more of the destination wedding planning and elopement planning, like the full production, and Trace handles all of the photography. Now we move a little bit with its team, yeah. And so most of the time we now work together, but we don't mind if our couples want to bring it as well. So that's kind of another evolution of the business, which has been lovely because, you know, going back to the photography side of things, Dee and I have been fortunate to photograph all over the world and all cultures, all religions, we've had the experience of just being able to watch how people love and celebrate all over the world. And that's kind of incredible, really. But the one thing here, of course, and we love Japan. We wouldn't have lived here 20 plus years if we didn't love Japan. But that's why we could laugh at its quirks and, you know, the intricacies. Yes, the intricacies. But the thing is that here they're very, very they think if people want to come here for a wedding, they must want to celebrate in a Japanese style. But people want to celebrate in their own way. And they want to be able to incorporate their own culture into a celebration with a Japanese element and a Japanese backdrop.
Yeah.
But Japan forces them, or doesn't, you know, if you're buying a package at the hotel, it forces them to basically celebrate in. And they're not even the hotels, like the wedding venues, the kaisho, big wedding centers. It really is sort of the deterrent. Yeah. So having the experience of being able to say, you know, we have experience with all different cultures, and we can help, you know, facilitate. The Jewish weddings, the big celebrations. Actually, the biggest wedding that we've ever done happened right before the world went into lockdown. We were escaping Oman. Well, we weren't escaping. We were in for a royal wedding. Yes, it was a 2-week royal wedding. The biggest of our career. And we kind of fascinating and amazing. And we were on a high. And Dee said, you know, if this is the last wedding we ever do, then it's a good one to go out on. But 3 events over the 2 weeks.
Wow. What was the total attendance?
Okay, so we were kind of at that time just starting, like we actually felt from sort of January 2020, to be honest, there was this freight train, something was just barreling behind us, because January 2020, we started to get our mainland Chinese clients and our Hong Kong saying, this thing happening, this is a virus, we don't think we're going to get it in March, April, we've had to reschedule. We had no idea what they were talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we kind of felt this this kind of freight train behind us, and we seemed to be one step ahead of it until we were. Then we went to America for the conference, the WPPI conference. We were speaking there, and we got an email from the Omani embassy saying that we couldn't come in from Japan. While we were in America at the conference, Sapporo had a state of emergency, or Hokkaido had a state of emergency. And they said, so anyone coming in from Japan would have to undergo a 2-week quarantine in Oman. This was back in February 2020. Yeah. And so we realized we were going to have to leave and fly straight from America to Oman. So we were in the middle of the conference and trying to change plane tickets, juggle clients back here. American friends asked, what are you even talking about? Nobody had heard of anything. We were at the conference looking like mad. We were trying to say to people, this thing's coming, you know. So do you know how cheap it is to change all your flights for the very next day? And we were taking some of our team with us as well, and they were flying from Japan because so we were panicking, and we said, you're going to have to stay there. Dee and I are going to have to cover this big event. Your question was, how big an event was it? We were under the impression that was over 1,000 guest count at the time. I think it was. So it ended up different, but for reasons, you know, because of the pandemic coming. But we didn't want to just be us. We wanted to take the team, but we thought with the team coming from Japan, we were being told they were going to have to quarantine. Dee and I left from the US, but we didn't have our gear with us because we were at a conference. We weren't thinking that we were going to need all of our gear to and shoot. But very luckily, we were at the conference, and our industry were amazing. We got gear overnight. Yeah.
Wow.
People came and party to thank Nikon and our lighting people. Yeah, oh my God. Everyone handed us stuff. We were able to get it all together. So Dee and I took off to New York to get a plane from New York to Oman. Once we arrived in New York, we left on the first day that New York got their first case. And we then flew to Oman, and things started happening in New York. You know, we were watching it. Once we got to Oman, the wedding planner was from London, and he just wouldn't believe us. Yeah. We're saying, I said, like, we're going to have to spend every single minute changing all of our next lot of clients for the next 6 months. So when we're not with you, we're going to be in our office, hotel office. And we were listening to him also run his, hotel office, and he was still planning his weddings throughout the rest of 2020 for Italy and Russia and all these things. Anyway, once halfway through the week happened, and we realized, so when it all started happening, we were in Oman, and we will forever be with this little group of people, these wedding professionals from London, Japan, Australia, another company from Melbourne, another company from Dubai. And these are our core people, because we went through this together. We thought we might have even been stuck in Oman at one point.
I think the wedding finished on March 15th, and then Oman pretty much shut down on the 16th.
They stayed open for the wedding. But the thing was,
and getting back to the guest numbers,
by the time the actual wedding happened, it was reduced.
It was reduced at 800. But what was really
just an intimate little wedding there.
100. There were 3 events, really interesting, which is why we had to bring our team. Like, obviously, the first event is the women's event. The men are very separate, so boys do their thing. Then, coming from us, we're used to shrines and kimono and all these very ethereal things here. That was fascinating for us to kind of walk into the room. Everyone veiled. Like, the perfume station at the front, they had 20 police just guarding like the perfume station. Like, it's fascinating. The invites were a little hologram. It was incredible. You had to show this hologram thing at the door to be able to get in. It was fascinating. And but can I just say too, this is how much our team respect us too. I loved it. we said to them, you better stay in Japan because we can't have you in quarantine for 2 weeks. And they said, no, we're at the airport and we've got extra gear and, and we're going to come and risk it. And I said, no. If you're in, you better just stay in Japan. Anyway, our lovely Suya, one of the team that we were talking to on the phone at the time, she said, no, I'm on the plane now. It's just hung up. I went, oh my gosh. While they were on the plane, Oman lifted that from Japan. Yeah. They got the message. So when they landed, they still didn't know if they were going into quarantine or not.
Yeah.
It was fast and an amazing experience for them, photographers. They'd never seen anything like that before. So that's how we started the pandemic. And, we, like I said, I've been working so hard on the planning side. And, to be honest, Japan was doing all our marketing for us. We had the Olympics coming up, all of those things. We were already fully booked for all 2020. Yeah. Fabulous business model until a pandemic hits. Events and tourism is a double whammy.
I mean, that timing, because we went back to Australia for my brother's wedding, was meant to be on March 20th, and on March 17th, Scott Morrison brought the restrictions on mass gatherings down from 500 to 100. And they had 200 guests. So they had to cancel the wedding 2 days before. I
understand. We actually had like a lovely couple already here in Japan that was planning their wedding for the week after we got back. They were already here. And then Australia sort of recalled everybody from their cities. Dee, we have to go. So I actually still have a wedding dress here in the studio. They have not given up. They have rescheduled probably 7 times now. And I've said, please guys, go on with life, it's like get married. And they're like, no, we're not giving up on this dream. But I think part of the business has been, while we haven't had these celebrations and events the past 2 years, the work has been astronomical because, like you said, people have been cancelling like 2 days before. The unpacking of these events, so it's been exhausting. So we've been unpacking, rebooking, and so now without Japan being open, our destination weddings have come back. We're slowly going back into the outside world this year. We haven't had any destination events, of course. And luckily, our domestic appointments have come back. So we kind of have a place in our business that we can get through this, that will be fine. And, a lot of teachable moments. But we were doing destination weddings where we would go abroad for some of these big VIP weddings. We were doing that perhaps 10 to 12 times per year. So that was a big shock for us to be kind of stuck in the one place. I was feeling really... And while the job sounds pretty exciting, it's actually a lot of pressure, traveling with all of our gear and, this idea of what it is. We're really on a lot of pressure. We've been flown in for a reason. We have to be on the top of our game. So it's always on my mind. People can go with a local photographer. So why would they pay extra to fly people in? So part of the job was we love to travel. Like that's kind of been our life journey together too. Like that's what we love to do. So being able to incorporate that into our job. Yeah. So the last 2 years has been such a shock to be stuck here in Chile. Well, I'm sure for a lot of people who are used to it, but it was, they've come back. We have a wedding in New York over summer and another one in London. So later this year. So we're still a little nervous, in terms of what happens now with COVID? What happens if we arrive with, get COVID within travel? Like there's so much now, contingency plans. And if anything that the past 2 years have taught, we need a plan B, C, D. It's long gone are the days where you'd be like, hey, why don't we go to Hawaii tomorrow? And just get online and book. That's not the logistics these days. Or in terms of not even just travel, but, just planning a wedding, planning a destination wedding where you've got hundreds of guests who are all flying in. So that's where we're at the moment. We still have all of the 2020 weddings, all of the 2021 weddings, and now, sadly, the 2022 weddings, they're not cancelling, they're postponing. So they're pushing back.
Right. So just a
But as
backlog.
it's
Yeah.
that backlog. And when Japan opens, we're going to have this tsunami of weddings just flood into it. But I guess the thing is, we're happy that no one's given up on their dream of this wedding. I know a lot of it's financial. A lot of them have placed a lot of money into the wedding. And
Yeah.
a lot of the venues,
We've been so flexible. The venues have been great. But yeah, like we were so hopeful sort of at the end of last year with the opening, sort of early this year, and then of course Omicron happened. We just remain hopeful it's probably going to be fall, maybe after summer. And very luckily, like from a small business point of view, no one really did cancel. We had a few cancellations, but everyone's rescheduled. So that's helped get us through.
but we have to know everything's downscaling. Yes, because once Japan does open, we don't know what that's going to look like. But are 100 guest weddings, are 100 guests coming in?
We don't know. Probably our 800 royal wedding probably won't happen for a little while. I think everyone's downscaling a lot. So no, we remain hopeful. We're positive. It's really interesting in other parts of the world. Everything's open. Just Japan's still in the holding pattern. We all know things are just done. So no, we're super hopeful. We've actually had to close our bookings now for it's like planning for this year and next year, just until we get a handle on all of the scheduling. Really take all our lovely couples who booked in.
I guess too, one of the things that we notice is we've always loved what we do because we're around family and stories and family history. We're around these people and we're celebrating this milestone and family being together. But these weddings that have been coming back have been so heightened emotionally because family have been kept apart for so long. And, like I'm not an emotional person, but I hadn't seen, we all hadn't seen our families for so long with, being away and everything. So I've been starting to tear up. The vows have been more intense. The family, the wanting to be together has been more intense. It has been highly emotional. I know it's not because we've all been kind of locked up and kept away from each other and everything, but it's been a really incredible experience watching people come back together. And even with the downscaling, it's become so much more meaningful or intense or emotional. A lot of our couples, even prior to the pandemic, a large movement to be the running away to get married.
Yeah.
A little bit different. Our lovely younger millennials really wanted to more spend in them and an amazing experience rather than a huge wedding can be quite wasteful in a lot of elements, we think sometimes too. So kind of downscaling anyway, focusing on really experiential, interesting things to sort of start their life and journey together. And that hasn't changed. I think that will still be here for a few years, but we can't wait to get back to celebrating. Like we're ready to.
Well, I guess the thing is, right from the word go, right from back when we first landed in Japan and we started 37 frames or I guess it's always been about delighting our customers. So that's the one thing that we've been trying to focus on the whole time is making sure we give our absolute best, delight the customers and have them come away, having an experience rather than just what they thought they were coming into, a wedding or a photo shoot or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think over the last 2 years, we lost a little bit of that. We couldn't delight them. We were dealing with incredibly sad people that have, have had to give it, move forward. They were fighting with venues, fighting with vendors.
Honestly, my first year was exhausting, like trying to get deposits back, refunds back
for your clients.
Yeah, we got through it all, but it just actually made us even more client focused and client driven and service driven. So now we've really got a good handle on that. Like we're just, like I said, kind of in this interestingly weird holding pattern.
Yeah, we're slowly being able to delight again. That's everything to us. So yeah, it's come full circle. But I hope, Dee said at the beginning of this, we're like a bit of a runaway train. We start on one topic. So hopefully, what was the question? What was the
Well, so I was just thinking it's the last time I'm going to send through a run sheet of questions because you made my job, completely redundant because I think you've just answered everything that I was going to ask. And
sorry.
in amazing style as always. That's amazing. I think that we sort of covered everything today. I guess it's are there is the Oman wedding the most sort of lavish, crazy destination wedding that you've been to, or have there been some other ones that have just
the wildest one I'd say was our New Orleans wedding. That was fantastic. Small, not huge, but and interestingly enough, like there's always a Tokyo connection. So we had to actually make it here in Japan.
Oh, really?
Bit like you sound like we'd done the engagement session. They brought us into New Orleans. That was fabulous. Like so much fun. We talk about it all the time. We did do a Hollywood wedding a destination Hollywood wedding in Hawaii for young Hollywood. They're in some of the Netflix TV show, which is really hard because we are not young Hollywood and we don't know who anyone is. And we also have like a run. We were here. So I think People Magazine or US. Oh, yeah. A sweep or something, needed photos the next day. So, and they gave us a list of the celebrities that they needed. And of course, Dee and I had like no clue who anyone is. We're all just a lot younger than us. So, and they say, how can you not know who these people are? And well, what are people? Right. We hired an assistant, a very young assistant to help us to make sure we got everyone. We've had some fantastic celebrations. Interestingly, I think what works best, what's always been sort of our point probably is our wonderful, amazing network. Our Tokyo network is sort of worldwide, and we found we sort of got one wedding that was here based in Tokyo, then that was connected to Stanford. Then we got all the Stanford weddings. Then we had a wedding for CNN. Then we got all the CNN weddings in Atlanta. So it was really interesting. So hey, start in one point, little spider webs sort of. I don't think the Atlanta wedding started in Tokyo. No, but they're all connected as well. And then we ended up being back in Atlanta like 3 or 4 times afterwards. So it's been such a joy to sort of end up in these places we never thought we would as well. But we do. We love the Marnie celebration was one of the biggest. Some of the big event celebrations that we've done have been phenomenal. I love the joy and the ritual and the ceremony. Like, I guess if you are fascinated by what you're seeing, you want to get in there and tell a story from this different perspective. Perhaps, we've always wanted to do that. And I just love joy. I love photographing emotion on all levels, whether it's, tearing up, crying grooms, howling mothers. The human spirit and the human emotion is the human story is you see it all in this one event. And I know people put it down to just being a wedding, but you can see it all in one situation. And there's a lot of the job that's obvious, not that exciting. There's a lot of things that we maybe why we were drawn to the job, but we love those maybe 3 to 5 minutes where we have incredible light, this opportunity to create something really special that might be like a family treasure that will just be in that for generations. And then we also have this other stuff that we have to do as part of the job, which may not. Then, of course, all the work that comes afterwards. I guess it's one thing I'd say to everybody though, after looking, after missing out on all these weddings, don't skimp on your photography. Yes, that's the one thing. It's for you. It's just for you. The world now, as much as I said how wonderful the world is, that everyone now has a phone, everyone has a phone in their, a camera in their pocket. I think that we're being bombarded with just not quality stuff. We're seeing photos of people's food and stuff on Instagram, and fuzzy, blurry stuff that they just put up because it's just for the sake of sharing. It's all they've got. And I think that there's a place for that. I do. I think that there's definitely a place for that. But at the same time, I don't think that we should forget about some of my most meaningful photos are photos of my grandparents' wedding. You know, I've got photos of my parents as kids, and they're beautiful quality. And so I don't think we should think about that we're photographing for now.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're photographing for the future. Who knows? It could be 50, 100 years in the future. And we would want to make sure photos are now here, now that they're digital and online, and, you know, blockchain's coming. So we'll be able to, you know, look them all up properly and safely. And
yeah,
I think now that it's all coming, it's online forever. You want to have your family story, your family history for whatever generations come. You want to have this beautifully documented and curated.
Yeah.
We don't want just, this massive stuff in a million different folders. You really want your family history curated beautifully for the, coming generations.
And obviously we are in a digital world, but we still very much advocate for the power and just with your memories, putting an investment in like beautiful art pieces, lovely fine art outlines. We really care about that. So we spend a lot of our time with our clients working on that. So, but Sam knows all about it.
Yes.
Many years ago, you got this lovely cabana from this very young man. He said, I want to propose to my girlfriend.
And I want everyone to see it.
Everyone to see it. And then you've been stuck with us ever since. 3 gorgeous boys later, and like be part of that kind of family story in our life is amazing to see where you've started celebration. When I say that our clients all stay the same age, I mean our wedding clients,
Yeah, right.
But
oh, sorry, I thought you were.
Wait a minute, once I know maybe we may have to rethink it that bit, but once we have done the weddings, we tend to stick with those families the whole way through, and watching them grow, and it's been the biggest joy. Like we always say to our clients, the wedding is just the start.
Yes,
the start of the family history, and the biggest joy of sort of being in this Tokyo world and being part of all those stories. And it's just amazing. And your family, Sam, is just so special to us too. So, you've given us so much while we've been able to sort of spend this life living and loving and celebrating just the joy of that. It's been amazing.
Yeah. I mean,
go ahead. Go. Sorry.
Well, I mean, for us, I know that the weddings are sort of the main part of your business, but we've never, well, you did sort of shoot our wedding after party, but for us, you're more sort of family photographers, because that's our experience of you. And we think you're just absolutely amazing. The way, I mean, even just the way that Max and Alex end up sort of playing with you guys and teasing at the end of a shoot, and that sort of interaction that you guys have with families, I think is just incredible. And I mean, it's a whole other side, I guess, of your business. But
right.
I mean, the experience that you offer families in that domain too is just
very sweet. And I think that it's the people like you and your boys that have actually told me. I mean, we make jokes about me all the time that I don't like people. But what this job has taught me is that I do love people. And it's the one thing that when I'm training our new photographers and even Dee's planning team, when we're trying to plan them, we have to teach them, you actually have to care about the people that you're photographing. You have to care about, not just care about them, it's not just a job. You have to really love them. And that's a really interesting skill set for kind of anyone, especially for photography like you, to be able to create an experience. You have to make those connections. Making the connections can be really hard, especially if you've never had professional photos. You've got a camera in front of your face. So having people who create those connections instantly important. We've loved it. We've loved it. I think we'll take Max and Alex, and any time when he's ready, we'll take them as our assistants any day. As you know, anything like the last 2 or 3 years have taught us, it is the importance of just maybe taking time. We often talk about it, like before the pandemic, we were so busy. There was one one year, I think we were over 3 months, we were almost in a different country each month and each week. Sorry. And while that sounds lovely, it was absolutely exhausting. So actually having this time, we'll never have this time again, just to kind of be in the moment, a little quieter, sort of seeing where we are, who we're surrounded by, and just, especially when we do the weddings, look at it, but especially the families, even if it's just 30 minutes, an hour, 3 hours, however long we're with it, the devices are down, they're engaging with each other. It's actually a very special time in life just to. We were talking about that. Yeah, you were talking about devices being off and down and people being together. Just when you said we were in 8 different countries in 8 weeks, I just remembered you mentioned one of the most fascinating, crazy weddings or something. It was over that time we did the head designer of Armani's wedding in Italy. Oh my God. And the fashion, it was just incredible. We saw this haute couture, it was just fashion walking towards us through Lecce, because none of the cars could come, and there were feathers and platforms and giant capes, and oh my God, it was incredible. And again, talking about time, we've been too busy to really process all these incredible experiences we've had, and to sit back now and really have time to process. It's actually taken us, I just didn't realize how life-changing a lot of these experiences were for us. We were taking them for granted. Right. We were doing everything I've said, caring about the people, loving the people, doing all of that. But we weren't really understanding how that related to us and our own story and how it was, evolving us as people. And so this reset time, for as difficult as it's been, we will forever be grateful for having this time. I think it's forced us into understanding how important time is. And we're also somewhat concerned when all of this starts again. We may need to increase our level of fitness. Really thinking about it, so we're coming to find to see if we help us. We will. When that floodgates open. I know that was a lot, but I hope you could use some of it, right?
Fantastic. I guess to just finish off, where do you see the business going? I mean, you've already accomplished so much business-wise and reputation-wise, but you also greatly affected the lives of a lot of people. Is there anything that you feel like you still want to achieve with what you're doing?
Yeah, well, like we've just said, we've had a lot of time to kind of think about this, and we're sort of in different mindsets at the moment. Continue. We've just got to get through these next 2 years with all of this rescheduling. That's the first stuff. And beyond that, we'll kind of see where we're at. I kind of had this little bit of a lofty dream to have my own gorgeous little venue somewhere that we can invite the world to. That's one idea. Tracy's like, certainly, we can retire now. No. I would love our own thing. Yeah, to create and to learn what we know. Yeah, just they want cherry trees, Tory gates, music Mount Fuji. They want to celebrate their own way, but then with Japanese food and musicians and flexibility. They want flexibility. They want to be able to party all night, not finish it. They want all of this stuff, and I know that with our own venue, we can create this magic for them. That's one plan, but it's also a lot of work. So we've kind of put everything on hold. There was definitely our 10-year, 15, 20-year plan as it was evolving for 37 frames. It is actually on hold at the moment. So like Dee said, we do have this floodgate of weddings. We have 2.5 years worth to get through in 1 year. Yeah. We've looked at how colleagues overseas have handled it, and some of them have us experiencing severe burnout right now from the backlog. So we're trying to take lessons from what our friends in New York have experienced, our friends in London have experienced, and we know what's coming for us. And so for now, the main goal is to just get through so check in with us about this next year.
See how it's doing.
Right. Yeah.
and then we'll see what future plans are. But it's been so good talking to you. You can tell that Dee and I have had this pent up, you know, we usually set up traveling and talking. We haven't done it for a while. Oh my gosh. Just send us the bill. I don't know what happened at the beginning there. We just went for the floor.
No, it was great. I usually finish up by saying if people want to get in contact with you. I can imagine that if people want to get in contact with you, they probably shouldn't. It's quite clear that you've got zero time on your hands for the next probably half a decade. But if people want to see,
definitely, we will always take care of our team. So network, and we actually do, while we're here in Japan still a little bit closed, we absolutely have time on the photography side. Yes. So just reach out to us at reachouts.com. Check before Japan opens. Yeah, we could definitely help. But we also love to share if there's anyone out interested in photography or into crazy interesting world of Japanese weddings. That's a great shout out. We are going to need to expand our team once Japan opens to be able to handle all of this. We can't do it right this very second, but when Japan opens, we're going to need more hands on deck. So if there is anybody that watches that has skills in planning or photography or videography, they can reach out as well. Hair makeup, florists. We will love to support our local community. Actually, the biggest joy for me over the past 2 years, I've been sourcing amazing new events and locations in Japan. So open to that. Oh, caterers. Yeah, anybody who can be ready for the onslaught that's coming. It's coming. The world is ready. Yeah. Thank you, Sam. This is amazing. Congratulations. Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. And thank you for coming on to celebrate with me. It's and obviously thank you for all that you've done for our family. I think after my proposal, most proposals were put on hold for a little while because no one would live up to that.
You still will. Yeah, I think you still will. I would tell your story all the time. Your proposed story. It's
so do I. But and you've brought our family a lot of happiness over the years, and you've created so many fantastic memories. So yes, thank you from on behalf of the Gilberts. My mum still follows you on Instagram.
Oh, just
she loves looking at your pics all the time. So yes, and once things do open up and you've got some more stories to tell, would love to have you back on the show.
We would love it. Thank you. Yeah, that we would love that. Actually, I'm sure there'll be many more stories to tell. I'm sure if we're still standing at the end of it.
All right. Well, thanks again, and yes, we'll look forward to see you again in person soon.
All right.
Thank you.